wrecking ball finishes what Mother Nature started in downtown Grand Forks. Even as they battle the floods of '97, the victims are already planning for the future, and that is tonight's top story. Good evening. It'll be months, maybe years, before life returns to normal in the Red River Valley.
And the entire city of East Grand Forks, Minnesota, may be starting life over in a new location. Water stretches as far as the eye can see in that area. It's literally an ocean. The highlighted area is a river near East Grand Forks, usually only a few hundred feet wide. In some places tonight, the floodwater spreads out 10 miles in either direction from that river, swallowing homes and farmland, hopes and dreams.
That's why the mayor of East Grand Forks wants to permanently move his community far enough away to avoid a repeat disaster. Carol Costantini begins our team report with that story. Alan?
Well, Paul and Diana, we'll get to that story in just a moment, but we have a little breaking news for you. Apparently, the National Guard says they've had some looting in Grand Forks, and because of that, they've imposed a more stringent curfew that runs from 8 p.m. until 7 a.m. And the way that works is, unless you're in uniform and in an official vehicle, you can't get in during those hours, and that includes news media. We can't get in. So we're not next to the river as we have been in previous nights. I-29 is just behind our camera here, and we can't go beyond that toward Grand Forks until we get past that curfew time of 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. So anybody who has any intentions of going to the city during those hours, unless you're official, should just forget it. Now, there is more than the Red River separating the mayors of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks tonight. There's a little flood philosophy. While the North Dakota city mayor is urging her constituents to rebuild in the city, the Minnesota city father is saying maybe it's time to move because they can't stay there.
No, I don't think we can, and I don't think that the Corps of Engineers will allow that, because we have some low-lying areas, and we have to look at bringing those areas up out of the floodplain and relocating them or else rebuilding.
The flood has already relocated East Grand Forks government to a motel just east of the city. A steady stream of helicopters keeps federal, state, and city officials abreast of the status in that deserted city. Now, residents have tried every method to save their most precious possessions. One man hoisted his snowmobile onto the roof in the hope that the river would ease off at the eaves. Well, it looks like a good gamble. East Grand Forks expects to have its water treatment plant up and running before Grand Forks, but that's still weeks away, and the real cleanup can't begin until there is clean water to use. All this contaminated floodwater has to go back to where it belongs before that can happen. Now, the 9,000 residents of East Grand Forks are huddled in homes and emergency shelters like this one at the University of Minnesota Crookston campus. They find ways to dribble away their exile. Some look at videos of their flooded homes. Others debate their mayor's opinion that it's time to rebuild their city on higher ground and away from the red menace.
I agree. I probably agree with that. I don't think I'd ever want to go through something like this again. It was a total nightmare. It was a nightmare.
We like that town. We don't want to move away.
No.
That's where our friends and family and everybody's at that we know.
Who knows when the next flood's going to be this big again, you know. It's hard. It's hard something to plan something like that.
I think we're still at the stage of being in shock. It's hard for them to realize what's really happened. They're just now today seeing photos of their homes.
It is very hard for many of these Minnesotans to consider leaving the riverbank permanently, even though they've had this lesson in vulnerability from Mother Nature. Although that lesson maybe seems to be easing, the river dropped, as we understand, 7 inches today from that crest of 54.1 feet. At least that's what we're told at the unofficial crest, but it did drop 7 inches, so maybe some good news, Paul and Diana.
All right, Ellen, thank you very much.
You bet.
The flood damage is so extensive in Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, officials in both cities are canceling school for the rest of the year. In Grand Forks, high water has damaged almost every public school. Officials say students will get whatever grades they have up until this point. Some schools do plan to reschedule big events like prom and graduation. And another big concern tonight is keeping the lines of communication open. Employees at U.S. West are working around the clock and so far have been able to keep some phone systems up and running. Farmers up and down the Red River Valley stand to lose millions of dollars to the floods.
Fields they should be tilling soon are underwater and may not dry out in time to plant. Carolyn's Brad Woodard continues our team report with more on that. Brad?
Well, Di, in just a matter of days, the breadbasket of the world has been transformed into the nation's water bowl. To make it as a farmer today is difficult even under the best of circumstances, and the flood of '97 has proven to be a major setback. Still, all along the Red River Valley tonight, there are remarkable displays of courage.
All
along the Red River Valley, thousands of square miles have been sacrificed to the worst flooding the region has seen in 500 years. Among the most severe casualties, the family farm.
Machinery I don't care about. That can be fixed.
When we first encountered Paul Vieker, he was racing to beat the Red River. It had already consumed his farm and was about to do the same to his cattle, their tiny sanctuary growing smaller by the minute. Obviously, you love your pet.
Yeah. That's enough.
That was a week ago.
Today's better.
Better because the water is slowly receding. And Vieker didn't lose a single cow.
They're sort of pets. There's a dairy cow in there that's going to calf within about 4 or 5 days.
Something else Vieker hasn't lost, his sense of humor. When local authorities urged him to evacuate the farm, but said they wouldn't force him.
And I said, well, it wouldn't work anyway, because my wife is in the house with the shotgun.
Paul says you're pretty handy with a shotgun.
We like to keep that myth alive.
Well, I don't know if a person should put it that way, but that's the way I put it.
Vieker put it that way because he's lived his entire life here, 61 years, and he wasn't about to surrender to the river.
We didn't think it could get this bad, but it did, so you put up with it. We'll have a clean job, all right.
Now, Vieker won't know the full extent of the damage to his farm until the water recedes, and that could be several weeks from now. He needs to be in the fields planting now, but many of his fields are accessible only by motorboat. And despite all of his optimism, it promises to be a very difficult year for him and farmers all along the Red River Valley. Back to you.
Yeah, Brad, with the short growing season, he may not even get a crop in, will he?
You know, that's one of the things agriculture experts have been talking about. Some crops aren't only going to be delayed, some crops are going to be prevented altogether because, again, the water is expected to linger for weeks.
All right, Brad, thank you very much.
Well, Fargo is sending Canada some help as the Red River flooding worsens north of the border. Fargo shipped 75,000 sandbags to Winnipeg for use in temporary dikes. Today, Manitoba officials ordered the largest flooding evacuation of the year. 17,000 people had to leave their homes in towns south of Winnipeg.
Many of the flood evacuees are now staying in the Twin Cities, and tonight several gathered at a Minneapolis park to share stories of sorrow and hope for the future. KARE 11's Lauren Glassberg continues our team report with more on that story. Lauren?
Well, Paul, up until a short time ago, this gymnasium at Logan Park was filled with feelings of friendship, love, and courage. You know, we've been seeing images for the past couple of days of people crammed together in makeshift shelters. But tonight, those who made the exodus to the Twin Cities looking for dry land gathered for what's being called a coming together. They literally flooded into the Logan Park Center. Hundreds of flood victims, each with a story to tell. These are folks who left their homes when the waters came.
Yeah, have you guys heard about your home? Anything, any news?
They're staying with family and friends in the Twin Cities, and tonight they're catching up, taking comfort in each other's arms.
But I said East Grand Forks.
Jay Weingarten organized this gathering. He, too, is a flood refugee.
People want to reach out and touch you. I mean, when they find out you're from East Grand Forks or Grand Forks, they want to literally take your hand.
These people aren't looking for pity. Instead, they're looking for ways to rise above the flood. They discuss financial, medical, social, and spiritual resources that could help.
Saturday night at 7 o'clock.
Cindy Klug hit a home run with her fellow evacuees. She got the Minnesota Twins to donate 500 tickets to Saturday's game.
This is something good that they can think of, you know, just something to get it off their mind, knowing what they're going to go home to. Turn the door open, and there's disaster. This is going to be a fun time for the whole family to enjoy.
And certainly it will get their minds off the disaster that awaits them at home. Also, the Twins donated tickets for the May 11th game. That is Mother's Day. But the people I spoke with tonight hope that they'll be home by then. And one more note, this is not the only meeting of its kind. Another one will be held next Wednesday and for as many Wednesdays as these flood victims remain in the Twin Cities.
All right. Thank you, Lauren.
Excellent.